a banshee by being genetically matched and linked to an avatar. Using avatars to fly this way was all figured out by my boss, Dr. Jackie Ogden. She leads our science team, which is part of the Pandora Conservation Initiative, and
let's see how this works.
We establish a link using powerful psionic amplification equipment. A human driver is connected to an avatar, which could be physically hundreds of kilometers away. When you follow our technician into the link chamber, you'll see a series of 16 link chairs. Please go to the number that matches the number you're standing on now. First, stow your gear in the storage containers on the back wall. This should include all bags, cameras, and other items, including cell phones. It's important to push them all the way into the bin. Then get onto the chair as you would a bike. Straddle the seat, step forward, and sit down. Slide your hips forward until you are against the chest pad, and then move your feet all the way forward. Wait until you're seated before you put on your flight visors. Hold on to the hand grips as shown. It's important to hold on to the hand grips at all times. After you're seated, back and leg restraints will be firmly engaged. For your safety, throughout this entire experience, always remain seated and supervise your children.
Durante toda esta experiencia deberán permanecer sentados, inclinarse hacia adelante agarrando las barras y supervisen a sus niños.
See plenty of hippos all grouped together under the water. Now hippos have pretty sensitive skin. They can sunburn. They usually spend their days submerged underwater, and they can hold their breath for several minutes at a time. Every few minutes they'll float up to the surface, take a breath of air, sink back down to the bottom of the water even if they're asleep. It's an instinct that they have. Keep your eyes out on that left-hand side. Past the waterfall, there's the Nile crocodiles. One under the water and one might be behind the tall grass on that left-hand side. They blend in very, very well. It's one of the largest find. Over on the right, we're passing by a baobab tree right now. Also has the nickname the upside down tree. You can probably tell how it got that nickname. Looked like it was flipped upside down with its roots in the air, but those trees remain leafless for the 9 months of dry season. That way they can hold as much water in their spongy roots and trunks as possible. They're capable of holding several thousands of gallons of water, makes for a great source of water during the dry seasons of the year. And on that right-hand side, they're going to be passing by a whole family of Hartmann's mountain zebras. Hartmann's mountain zebras can be identified by their stripes that get a little thicker in the back. Helps them to blend in larger numbers. Makes it harder to tell where one zebra ends and another begins. Another way to identify them as mountain zebras is if you look at their stripes, you'll notice they don't go all the way around them, unlike other zebras. They stop at their bellies there. And their stripes are one of a kind for each zebra, like a fingerprint. That's how babies can identify their mothers out in the wild. Of course, they are mountain zebras. They can be found in mountains as well. That's why their hooves are a little more narrow than other zebras, making them more adapted to navigating the rough and rocky terrain. And a lot of these animals, they are going to be successful pack hunting animals in all of Africa. They're so successful because they use teamwork to help them hunt. Very social animals. They'll take care of their elderly and their sick. That's something that a lot of other animals will not do. Up ahead on the left, a couple different animals here. Of course, we're getting a good look at the giraffe. Take a look at its spots. You'll notice its spots get a little jagged around the edges, like puzzle pieces. Lets us know it is a Maasai giraffe. Of course, there's the sable antelopes as well, with their long horns tilted backwards to protect them from predators pouncing on their backs. Very brave, protective animals. And we're passing by a very small antelope species up ahead called a springbuck. They only get to be about 3.5 feet tall, but they are very fast animals. They can run up to 55 miles an hour. And if they get startled, they'll do something called pronking, spelled P-R-O-N-K-I-G. It's where they start bouncing along the savanna. They can leap up to 13 feet long, up to 6 feet high, meaning if they wanted to, they could run right up to the truck, leap in through one window, fly right over your laps and out the other side. It's because of their amazing athletic abilities that they are the mascots of a lot of sports teams around the world. Over on the left here, we're passing by some more Maasai giraffes here. Take a look at their, just how tall they can get. Talking anywhere from 18 to 20 feet tall on average. Looks like they're all hanging out by these trees looking for something to snack on. Does not give them a lot of room in the day for sleep, so it's a good thing they only need about 30 minutes of sleep a day. Usually that's broken up through naps that they take standing up. Some of those naps can be as short as 30 seconds apiece. Over on that left-hand side, you can see just how tall the babies can get. Newly born, they can get to be a little less than 6 feet tall. That one over on the left is a couple months old now, so probably a little closer to the 7, maybe even 8 foot range there. Now, their long legs can carry them incredibly quickly. They can walk up to 10 miles an hour, to run much faster, up to 35 miles an hour. They're very, very fast animals. And as we make our way up and around this curve, we're going to pass by a group of wildebeest over on the right-hand side, very top of the hill underneath the shade there. Now, the name wildebeest comes from the Afrikaans words for wild beast. You have another name in Swahili, spelled G-N-U, pronounced new. They get that name from the noise that they make. Over on that left-hand side, you can see another wildebeest there. They are kind of the storm chasers of the savannah as well. You see, during the 3 months of rainy season, as monsoons and rainstorms make their way through Africa, the wildebeest will group together and follow those rainstorms around. They'll pick up more and more wildebeest as they travel, eventually reaching numbers as large as 1.5 million in size. Those migratory herds can stretch anywhere from 500 to 1,000 miles long. With that, we are making our way a little further. We'll see what other animals might be hiding around here today. Over on that right hand, might even notice the top of their heads and their backs look a little dusty or dirty. They have pretty sensitive skin. Sometimes they'll scoop up mud and dirt with their trunks, fling it on their backs. That acts as a natural lotion or sunscreen, protects their skin from sunburn or any other damage they'll sustain here on the harsh savannah. Now, unfortunately, the elephants face a lot of threats in the wild. One of the biggest threats they face nowadays is the destruction of their habitat, pushing them closer to human civilization. Big issue for both the elephants and the farmers in areas like Kenya. The farmers were noticing elephants coming onto their farms looking for food, ended up trampling their crops and getting themselves hurt in the process. I'll let you know how those farmers in Kenya use that research closer to the end of our safari. But on that left-hand side, we're passing by flamingos here. As we pass by the flamingos, keep an eye on their island, especially the inside, the lower dirt part of their island. Might be a familiar shape there. But these here are greater flamingos, the largest, lightest pink out of any flamingo species. They don't hatch pink though, they hatch gray, and they get their pink color about a year later based off their diet consisting of brine shrimp. Brine shrimp is very rich in a chemical called carotene. The more shrimp they eat, the more carotene they get. The more carotene they get, the more pink they become. They can also flock together in numbers as large as 10,000 in size. They don't like to migrate if they don't have to. In fact, they try to find a good, clean source of water with an abundance of food where they'll settle down for the rest of their days. That's why it's important we keep our waterways clean, not only for our sake, but also for the sake of the animals that rely on those areas. Very important for them as well. Up ahead, we'll be passing by the larger cousin of the black rhinoceros we saw earlier. There's some white rhinos over on the left here. They can get anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 pounds, and even though we can see these white rhinos pretty easily, they might not be able to see us from that far away. That's because they're nearsighted. They have pretty poor eyesight, which they make up for with incredible hearing. They can actually hear for about a mile away. They just have to be a little more careful than other animals out here, but as we can see, they're very gentle giants. They just sort of do what they want to do out here. Pretty easy for them to do. But they don't have any natural predators, and not a lot of animals really want to mess with these rhinos here. As we pass on by, you'll see that their ears are swiveling around a little bit here, listening out for our trucks as we make our way through this area.
Oh, your ears.
It also looked like they were hanging out by those mud wallows back there. When it gets a little hotter, they'll sometimes roll around in the mud. It helps to keep them nice and cool, and also acts as a natural sunscreen or bug repellent, kind of their skincare routine. Now we'll see what other animals might be hiding around here today. Sometimes some of these animals use camouflage to hide from their prey pretty well, so it might be a little hard to see them. But up ahead we are going to be passing by a rock formation called a kopie. Now these rocks might look a little familiar. They might even remind you of Pride Rock from The Lion King. Animals like lions will use rocks just like these to get a good look out on the horizon, see if they can find any prey in the area before they start hunting. That being said, we might not find any lions around here around this time of day. That's because they usually spend anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a day resting and sleeping, saving their energy for the nighttime. That is when they're most active doing their hunting. We'll still keep an eye out for them, see what there is to see as we journey through here. On that right-hand side, there's an antelope species at the top of the hill. That is a waterbuck. As their name suggests, they really like the water. They stay near rivers and lakes their whole lives in case predators chase after them. Then they just have to jump in the water, and the predators won't want to follow. If any predators do decide to follow them into the water, they also secrete a greasy, smelly substance that waterproofs their coat, helps them to glide through, and makes their escape a lot easier. Now, looks like we might not find any lions here, but we'll keep an ear out for them as well. The roar of an African lion can usually be heard from about 5 miles away out on the open savanna. As it gets a little closer towards the nighttime, should be able to hear them from quite a ways away, although the rocks and the trees will muffle it a little. Still should be pretty loud there. And over on that left-hand side right now, we're passing by some burrows, typically home to burrowing animals like warthogs. Now, warthogs, they prefer to be more active during the day, but if they notice a town or a village, anywhere with a lot of people, they might adapt to be a little more nocturnal. So they might be hiding from us around this time of day. We'll keep an eye out for any tusks sticking out of their burrows. When they go to bed, they'll shimmy their way in backwards into their burrows so they can have their tusks facing out to protect their homes at a moment's notice. Over on the right-hand side, looks like we're passing by a cluster of ostrich eggs, though, in the grass. Those are the largest eggs out of any birds at about 3 pounds apiece. They are so incredibly strong that a fully grown adult can stand on them all day and they will not break. Would not recommend doing that, though. Then you'd have to deal with an angry mama ostrich, and they can run up to 45 miles an hour. Probably have to deal with a few of them as well. They are collective nesters. They group their eggs into one big area. That way they can watch over them together. We are now making our way out towards the outskirts of the savannah. Looks like there's some Nigerian dwarf goats over here. Now, these goats are very playful, very social animals. You can see them all the way up at the top of the hill there. Now, they'll actually have headbutt competitions, see who's the leader of their group. Might look pretty small. That's about as big as the goats are going to get. Makes for great animals for domestication. Takes less space to take care of the goats. The warden can give more space to other animals that need it more. I also want to point out the yellow triangle box on the left, held up by a couple of poles in front of the warden's post. You might be wondering what that box is. It's actually an example of a beehive very similar to the ones that the farmers in Kenya would use to keep the elephants away from their farms. See, when the farmers in Kenya got the research back that the elephants are scared of bees, they came up with a pretty creative solution to their problem. They would build those beehives and attach tripwires to them, so whenever the elephants got too close to the farms, they'd bump the tripwires, shaking the beehives. The elephants, they would hear the sound of the bees. Not only would that let them know to stay away from that area, they would communicate with the rest of their herd using a very special low rumbling noise. That way the whole herd knew to stay away. Created some very effective natural fences, protected the crops from getting trampled and the elephants from getting hurt. And it gave the farmers a little extra honey that they can then sell. It's a win-win for everybody involved. So Disney took that research, developed it a little further, and created the Elephants and Bees project, now in use in about 22 countries around the world. Looks like we are approaching the end of our safari here today. If there were any wilderness explorers on board, you are on board the Simba 1. That is Simba like the lion and 1 like the number. It's going to be your coach to that wilderness explorer badge, which you will find over on page 14 of your handbook. Now would be a pretty good time to make sure you have any and all